It's week 4, and the Vols just dominated Kent State, and they plan on doing the exact same thing this weekend in Norman.
This game can't come any sooner.
The Vols are coming off a historic victory, the record for most points scored in a game, which was previously 70, Louisiana Monroe in 2000, and so from 70 to 71 from this weekend.
It's pretty good, if you ask me. Yeah, I mean, it was just complete domination. They didn't stand a chance. We alluded to that in our last episode, but they look like a middle school team out there.
Yeah, Cargman's hair did not do what needed to be done in order to win. He didn't shampoo it or something. It was just not silky enough.
Yeah, everyone knew it was going to be bad, and it was honestly, I think it was worse than everyone thought. You can tell they were intimidated. They had 3 or 4 botched snaps, pushing back pretty far. That safety also was caused by that botched snap. And when you look at some of the Kent State players, there wasn't really much to like. They had 2 plays that were over 10 yards, and we averaged about 10 yards per play the whole game.
Wow. The Vols had 740 yards, and Kent State had 112.
Golly.
So some kind of record was going to be broken today. I think that was obvious.
Mm-hmm.
We had about 10 yards per play, and they had 2 yards above 10.
Yes.
So, 2 plays above 10 yards.
Yeah.
So, if we want to talk about Nico, well, Nico didn't have to do anything.
No, and that was, honestly, I won't say maybe my favorite part, but I was kind of happy that he didn't. He put on a show against Chat. He, as we talked about, did fine against NC State. But, yeah, he had 1 passing touchdown. I think he was 10 for 16. He didn't have to, put the team on his back. And I wouldn't say anyone really had to, but if someone did, it was our running back trio. Yeah. We were 1 yard away from having, the trifecta, 3 running backs over 100 yards. Peyton Lewis had 99 yards, the true freshman. But it was just, exciting overall to watch.
So on that note then, who was your player MVP from the game?
Well, you could pick one of those 3 running backs. You could pick Brazel. That touchdown was really nice. But my player is the Kent State center because, as I said, those 3 botched snaps, they had no idea what they were doing out there. And, we all know that we have a strong D-line, and Kent State now knows that we have a strong D-line after that game.
Yeah. And it was needling loud out there. So for an O-line like Kent State's caliber, yeah, I probably would have botched even more snaps, to be honest.
I know I would have. My dad called me during that game, and it reminded me of my center days. I know I don't look like one, but I used to play center in middle school, and I'm used to those botched snaps. It's not as easy as you think. But, no, in all seriousness, though, Bishop, 120 yards. He was insane. He had that long, 53-yard touchdown, 17 yards per carry for him. And, he's a guy that, we'll see how much time he gets this year, but really good for him. Sampson, 4 touchdowns. Your 30 touchdowns this season isn't looking too crazy anymore after this.
I was just about to say that.
He had 101 yards. And then, as I said, Lewis with 99.
Yeah, so my MVP would be Dylan Sampson.
Understandable.
He is still my favorite player to watch so far. And 4 touchdowns this past weekend, that means my prediction for him breaking the Tennessee rushing touchdown record he is still on pace for that.
On the table for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I was like joking on you for saying like 30, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that because it was 2.5 touchdowns per game. I think that's gone up now. It's like 32, 33 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, now he's on pace for 31 or 32 or something like that.
Real quick to finish out this game, my favorite part of this game, as you said, the 71-0. We love breaking records. But this was a tune-up game for us before SEC play. But, yeah, my favorite part was no injuries. First of all, that's huge before going into SEC play.
I'm actually pretty surprised by that.
We got a lot of guys in there. But, yeah, we have a 12-team playoff this year. That's upwards of 15, 16 games as opposed to the 12. not even counting the SEC championship if we make that.
Right.
But we really got to see what guys, we can play in serious moments. Like, again, I know I said Bishop with 120 yards. Against Kent State, it's fine. But, he could be a guy that we lean on against, some of these SEC teams if our running backs get injured or they're just getting stopped or something like that. So
yeah, if it comes down to it.
I'm really happy that, we rotated a lot of guys in there this week.
Yeah, so last week we also predicted the final score of this game, and we even have it right here on the board. So I predicted 65-9.
Mm-hmm.
All right, look, I don't know where I got 9 from. I was thinking 3 field goals. I mean, they did try one.
They did attempt like a 53-yarder, and it wasn't.
It was
really
like
close.
Yeah, it was the icing on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of felt bad for them at that point. I was like, I kind of wish he made that, but
at least Chet made a field goal, right? But
yeah. So the way the PCS works, we take the Vols score, opponent score, the spread, and then the total.
Mm-hmm.
In that order is of importance, and so I came out with 84 PCS points.
Mm-hmm.
And the lower the better. So
yes,
nice.
My prediction was 70-6, which is pretty good. I predicted a little too many points for Kent State. That safety also kind of messed things up, but
yeah, it made it awkward.
Still good enough. 41 PCS points, pretty good. And yeah, it's golf scoring. The lower, least amount of points you have, the better. And
yeah. So each week,
points.
Jason and I, we give our final score predictions, and we do it on the PCSonline.com,
mm-hmm.
and we take the total from the score from that specific game. So in this instance, we got 84 and 41, and we've been doing this, since week 1, and so 3 weeks in, what are we at?
Yeah, so I have 386 PCS points on the season to Shea's 469. Pretty sure that NC State game didn't really help you that much.
The NC State game was bad for me.
Yeah, the Chat game wasn't really great for both of us because we, underestimated them right off the bat. But yeah, starting off strong here early in the season, just like the Vols.
Yeah, I think I gave NC State like 20 or 30 points. So we have ranked every single SEC team, all 16 of them.
Yeah, I was curious to see, this is our SEC opener against Oklahoma coming up, and there have already been some SEC games which have been played, but I really feel like this season is starting for us now, and because of that, I want to see where we stack up and where the entire SEC stacks up. Getting this SEC season started.
Yeah.
So we ranked every single team, and we each had our own individual rankings, and we put them together to have the PCS Volcast rankings.
Yep. So at 16,
mm-hmm.
I had Mississippi State.
Me as well. Yeah, they're not looking too good this year, and it's really sad, honestly, about Mississippi State. Their coach passed away a few years ago, and they just haven't really found the guy, to help them get back on track. I mean, they lost to Toledo like 41-16.
Yeah, they got blown out as if like Toledo paid them to play.
Yeah.
So really, you just kind of don't even want to
mm-hmm.
worry about Mississippi State. This is just not the year for them.
In my rankings, I ranked every team, by just overall strength and power rankings, and I also sprinkled in a little bit of, how many teams or how many matchups can these teams win. And I couldn't find any wins for Mississippi State in the SEC this year.
Yeah. Which brings us to number 15,
mm-hmm.
Vandy.
Yes, I also had Vandy.
Yeah. It's bad if you're worse than Vandy. Hey, shout out to Vandy.
No, yeah,
we love
real.
Vandy. I want to see Vandy succeed, of course, but
yeah.
No, Mississippi State's looking really bad. But hey, Vandy, they got a good win this season. They were still projected by actually, no, they weren't. So ESPN had Mississippi State ranked dead last in the SEC
mm-hmm.
For the FPI, which is basically ESPN's way of saying how good is this team, like how likely are they to win games. They put, I don't know how they get their numbers, but Mississippi State, an FPI of 0.4, and Vandy was 1.8. So,
Yeah, as you said, we're Tennessee fans here, but Vandy's kind of like our little brother. I want to see him win, and yeah, that win against Virginia Tech early in the season was pretty good for them. yeah, their quarterback Pavia is pretty good. Like, he can make some plays from New Mexico State. And once again, I couldn't find any wins for Vandy this season, but you never know. Something crazy could happen.
Yeah. So at 14, this is where we finally start to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I had Florida at 14.
Okay.
And I know their strength of schedule is insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the hardest in the SEC.
In the
but,
country, probably.
Yeah, true. But I don't trust Billy Napier. This has to be his last year. Sunbelt Billy, shout out Uncle Lou. Sunbelt Billy just ain't it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got to go. And I don't even see him finishing the year. Now, it doesn't help that they had the hardest strength of schedule.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, 4.5 wins, that sounds about right.
Actually, I disagree with you. I would love to see Billy Napier stay at Florida because that means they're going to be bad. As a Tennessee fan. I unfortunately do, it sucks to have a really hard strength of schedule. And, now the East and West divisions are gone. They have the gauntlet, essentially. I actually had them ranked at 13. So I think they're talented enough to pull some wins. I had them winning at Mississippi State, at home against Kentucky, and actually I have them pulling an upset at home against LSU. Yeah, I mean, they have talent, especially if they play DJ Lagway, their, I believe, true freshman quarterback. He can make some plays. Montrell Johnson, their running back. But, yeah, with coaching, strength of schedule, I don't project them doing quite well this year.
I do see them having a breakout game, like a game winning against LSU. I could definitely see that because LSU isn't too far up this list. So
I had to sprinkle in a few upsets, just to feel like, how would that even happen? Like, I mean, we just saw Kentucky and, Georgia last
exactly.
week, so you never know. Georgia did come out with a win, but
and we saw Florida upset us just last year. So
yes, unfortunately.
So who did I had Florida at 14. Who'd you have at 14?
Yes, I had Arkansas at 14. Kind of the same vein. Sam Pittman is meh. I mean,
yeah.
There's worse coaches out there, but I don't love him. We can say this about every team, strength of schedule. We're in the SEC. It's going to be tough. I had them pulling one win at who else but Mississippi State. Yeah, I mean, they actually play Tennessee later on in the year. Ole Miss, Texas, Missouri. It's not easy.
No, it's not. And that brings me to my 13th overall team, which is Arkansas. Yeah, and I agree with all your points. So Sam Pittman, he's got a 25-26 record at Arkansas. And he's been there, a few years now. When they look at Sam Pittman, are they thinking this is our guy? Or are they ready to move on? I mean,
he's been there. I mean, I haven't been locked in on Arkansas football for that long, but he's been there for as long as I can remember. Taylon Green, their quarterback, he's pretty good. Their running back is also very good. So, again, it's a common theme with some of these lower-tier SEC teams. They have talent, but how far can that talent take them without a great coach and with a really tough schedule?
Yeah. Who did you have at 13?
13, I had the Kentucky Wildcats. And Kentucky's hard to rank for me, especially after this the matchup this past week against Georgia.
They looked okay.
I mean,
they looked good. I mean, I think it was more so Georgia looking really bad.
And just you couldn't pay me $1 million to watch a Kentucky game if they're not playing against Tennessee. It's like their coach would rather watch paint dry than have a pass-heavy offense and recruit receivers. It's just horrible. Again, tough schedule. I had them winning at home against Vandy, and I did having them pulling, will it be an upset? I'm not sure, a home win against Auburn.
Hey, in my book, that is an upset. And in ESPN's FBI rankings book, that is also an upset. So,
and I would like to mention, as a Tennessee fan, I hate to like these other teams, but Stoops is a pretty good coach. He is a good coach, good college football coach, but his style of play just cannot compete with these explosive SEC teams. If they get down, we put up like 38 points in the first quarter against Kent State. That won't happen, I'm sure. But if we put up 14, 20 points in the first quarter against Kentucky, their offense and their playbook just doesn't really allow them to come back from that.
Yeah, they have to take time away from us, and it's kind of funny because Georgia is like the same way, even with Carson Beck. So that's probably why that score between the two of them was so low.
It's just a horrible, like, gouge your eyes, that kind of game. That game was at Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
So,
it was.
you know, again, I really factored home and away, as you should, in a lot of these matchups. That just shows you, you know, Kentucky's home field advantage isn't overwhelming, but it shows you how important it is.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. So at 12, I had Kentucky. So, yeah, I mean, I trust Stoops to be a well-rounded coach, or not well-rounded, but just an above-average coach, especially in the SEC. But like you said, his philosophy is not going to really get them anywhere. But I don't know if Kentucky fans care about getting more than 8 wins in a season. They seem pretty satisfied, and I don't mind keeping it that way. So
at 12, I had Florida. Excuse me. Yeah, I talked about them a little bit earlier. I think that they're too talented just to fall to the pits of hell of the SEC, essentially.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we'll see how far Billy Napier can drag them down to that pit.
Until he gets fired, that is. All right, so at 11, I had Auburn.
Yep, I did as well. Auburn, again, they're relatively talented. They're having some quarterback issues. Peyton Thorne, their original starting quarterback, Michigan State transfer, he's just that kind of field general type of player, and it hasn't really been working out for him. But, you know, they're the team. They have a really good coach in Hugh Freeze. I think he is – I think he's a good coach, and I think he can, you know, again, keep them out of the bottom of the barrel of the SEC.
Yeah, he's looking to prove himself since his allegations.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So he's coming back from just personal issues, but I think he's a very good coach. But then again, he's the opposite of Mark Stoops. So he needs a quarterback that can run his offense, and obviously he does not have that this year, and he did not have that last year.
They've been playing around a little bit with some of their quarterbacks, and I don't remember his name, but I think they found a guy that is suitable. He played well in their last game, I think. But yeah, I had them winning at home against Arkansas, at Kentucky, and at home against Vanderbilt. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
You know, you take all you can get if you're Auburn.
I think that Kentucky game will be pretty good, though.
Hopefully,
yeah. Because I see Stoops and Freeze, you know.
Good coaching matchup.
Yeah, they're in the same tier. So 10, South Carolina. All right.
Yes.
The Gamecocks, they have surprised me, and their quarterback he is very fun to watch. That is undeniable. And I think he's the reason that they came so close to LSU. Who did you have it?
I also had 10. Yeah, we were consensus on that one. It really hurts me to say this, but I kind of like the South Carolina team, even if they're not going to be all that great. You know, in a different conference, they could be good.
Right.
But this is the SEC we're talking about. But yeah, and I don't like to say this because you know what happened a few years ago. But
yeah, I know. I mean,
but
in Florida.
Yeah, true. But I had them winning against Kentucky at home, Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt, and I thought of a little cheeky upset against A&M at home. Now
really?
that's going to be tough because Kyle Field is a notoriously difficult place to play. In the recent, and we'll get into A&M a little bit later, but in the recent A&M era, they've won games they're not supposed to win, lost weird games they're supposed to lose or whatever. So I can see this being a kind of a weird upset for South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina and Texas A&M are both weird teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said, upsets that don't need to be upsets, and so on and so forth. So
now, they did. I mean, they blew out Kentucky, 31-6. I said I had them winning against Kentucky. They already did. They were one of the teams that I've already played. But Lenore Sellers, you were saying, the quarterback, I believe he's a true freshman with the goggles out there. Yeah, he's a fun player to watch. And Rocket Sanders, he was like a really good running back from Arkansas who transferred away. He's been fine. He's been pretty good, I guess, this year. But again, they can have a game where they both blow up, and just like this Kentucky game, 31-6.
Yeah. And, okay, so these next few rankings were not easy.
Mm-mm.
Okay, these are not super clear or definite. but we did pick them. Okay, so at 9, our soon-to-be opponents, Oklahoma. And it's not so much that they're a bad team or that they have a bad coach, but I don't think Venables has done exactly what Oklahoma fans were expecting. The defense has gotten better, and the offense has been pretty stale. And I think they're looking at Arnold to really elevate him this year, but he's gotten worse every. And you know what? Okay, I'll leave that for the preview for this weekend.
Right.
But Oklahoma as a team, I do respect them. ESPN has them at 13.5 for their FPI, which is number 7 in their SEC ESPN FPI rankings.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit higher on Oklahoma than you are. They're 3-0, but that's, it's pretty much the sloppiest 3-0 you could be up until this point. I had, let's see, we're at 9. I had LSU at 9. They're another team that I'm not really sure about. Like they get good recruits. They have Brian Kelly, who I don't love Brian Kelly, but he's a good recruiter. So that's all you can ask for, I guess, in some cases.
I mean, he's definitely overhyped.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna win you games, but championships, on the other hand, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. LSU has Garrett Nussmeier, who's a pretty highly rated recruit coming out. Following Jaden Daniels' Heisman year, and Kyron Lacey is another one of those typical LSU like dominant receivers. A Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. He's been good this year, and he's their go-to guy. But when they lost to USC, Brian Kelly was in shambles. I don't know if you saw that interview, but he was like tweaking about how they couldn't make plays down the stretch, and they barely squeaked by against South Carolina. Granted, that was in Columbus, but 3-point win isn't exactly what you're looking for in a ranked team.
Yeah, you're definitely expecting more out of Brian Kelly, and especially out of LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of brings me to my number 8 pick. But who did you have at number 8?
I had Texas A&M at number 8.
Okay. So
yeah.
Mike
So
Elko.
Yeah. Ever since Texas A&M had that huge dominant recruiting class, it's been like, where's A&M?
Yeah.
I feel like they start highly ranked every season, and they kind of don't really live up to expectations. And I kind of touched on this earlier, but I just don't have utmost confidence in them to take care of business. They lost against Notre Dame at the start of the year. That game was super ugly. Connor Wegman, their quarterback, was supposed to come out and have a really strong year. Hasn't really been there. I think he's been struggling with a little bit of injury as well. But, they lose to Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame loses to NIU. So it's like, what's going on with that?
Right.
But, I think A&M is a good team. And I actually project them to win a lot of SEC games this year because their schedule is favorable. I only have them losing to South Carolina at South Carolina and to Texas at home, which means 6-2 in the SEC. But I just don't really I feel like they're going to have a good record, go into a bowl game, and get embarrassed.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I mean, Texas A&M in recent memory, it was like expected of them to go 8-4, Texas 8-4 instead of A&M.
Yeah. Yep.
And now they're hoping to reach 8 wins.
Pretty much.
And which is, like you said, just weird after their dominant recruiting class that they have not developed or even kept around.
Yeah, a lot of those guys have gone.
Yeah, they're not even there anymore. But okay. So at 8, I had LSU. We were just talking about LSU. Yeah, I mean, I could see LSU beating Oklahoma, South Carolina. Not dominantly, but, they're still beating them.
They're a good enough team to have a chance in all these games.
But like you, I see Texas A&M being better than LSU. But unlike you, at 7, Texas A&M is my pick. And you had Oklahoma.
Yeah, so I had Oklahoma having a horrible SEC record, which might not make any sense. But to me, they kind of feel like if you can beat Oklahoma, you are a contender in the SEC because they're talented.
Right.
We're going to get into them later. I think Brent Venables is he's an up-and-down coach like last year or 2 years ago, which is, they were like bad. But, I mean, they have, aside from Florida, probably the hardest schedule in the SEC. Tennessee, Texas, Ole Miss, Missouri, Bama.
Yeah.
I have all of those as losses, and I have them beating Auburn, South Carolina at home, and LSU in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I mean, welcome to the SEC. I
Right.
saw a Oklahoma fan post something somewhere, and they were like, they posted all the games that you just listed, and they were like, how? It's like,
That's
hey, man,
what
we do this
yeah.
every year.
Mhm.
At least some of us do.
It's funny to me that the SEC merger happened the same year as the East and West. You know, they got rid of the East and West divisions. Yeah. I guess Oklahoma would have been in the East, which is a top-heavy division with Georgia, Tennessee, but didn't really have those like solid teams in the middle, so they would have been probably better. But yeah, they're coming in and immediately getting hit with a gauntlet.
Yeah, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah,
and starting with us.
Yeah, right.
Number 6.
Mm-hmm.
This is where it gets good. All right, so
Yes.
Missouri at number 6.
Yep.
Drinkwitz, he's doing what he needs to do. If you're a Missouri fan, you're very happy with him, and you're feeling very high off of your season last year, and you're hoping for the same. And people are predicting you to have the same season.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, I think it's because of that strength of schedule. It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really weak. I mean, they play Bama's their hardest opponent.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough. But after that, who do they have? Oklahoma? Okay, well, Oklahoma was ranked, 9 for me, 7 for you.
Right.
Yeah, Missouri, I'm not going to be impressed with you until it's bowl season. But I can't help. I can't put you any lower than 6.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be right.
And I was honestly like, Missouri's a good team. Like, there's no doubting that they're a really good team. But I was kind of surprised how highly they were ranked to start the year, and it had a lot to do with that Ohio State blowout in the Cotton Bowl. I think last year it was one of the top New Year's Six bowls. But yeah, the strength of schedule isn't amazing, which is favorable for them. I had them losing to Alabama at home and at Texas A&M. Just a gritty win by Texas A&M there. Get caught by surprise maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
But you were talking about Drinkwitz. I honestly think that Eli Drinkwitz, he hopped onto the scene quite recently. Having that really good season last year, kind of took everyone by surprise. I think he's comparable to Heupel in some ways, just kind of like surprising, being pretty good right off the bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they have a good quarterback with Brady Cook, who is him and Jackson Arnold, Oklahoma's quarterbacks, are two of the most underrated runners at the quarterback position in the country, I think. They have, Luther Burden III, who is might be the best receiver in the country. He's amazing. The defense, that's going to be the question for them. Is are they going to be able to compete with some of their harder teams in their schedule? But when we get into these upper echelon SEC teams, I don't really think anyone should count Missouri out necessarily.
No, of course not. But I don't think they're going to be at the top when it's all said and done.
I agree.
You had our number last year, Missouri, but don't forget who was at QB, okay? Patriots backup, Joe Milton.
Third string, actually. But yeah, Missouri is one of those teams, like we got our get back against South Carolina last year.
Right.
I want to see Missouri again.
Yeah.
While they're still good, too, because that and the Florida game didn't sit well with me last year.
But I don't think we will. I think it's us in Missouri at the end. It's one of us getting in, so
probably
it can't be us both,
probably.
At least I'm not expecting that to be the case, because instead of Missouri, I see Ole Miss, who I have at number 5.
Me as well.
Ole Miss, so much hype this season, which for me personally feels out of nowhere, but I guess really diving deep into the team, they're just super well-rounded, and they got Lane Kiffin, who, hey, he's done pretty good for them. Okay,
whatever.
No, I mean, him. But
yeah.
You got 37-15 is his record at Ole Miss. We'd all take that, and their strength of schedule is 15th, so they're basically just a better Missouri. In my opinion, I mean, I see us winning against them. But.
Yeah, Ole Miss is a really strong team, and that's another example. If they were in the ACC, they could just outright win the ACC.
Right.
Ole Miss is a good team, but they kind of just missed the cut for me in terms of the top four. I think most SEC fans can agree on the top four. Maybe you could slide Ole Miss in there, but I just don't think they have enough to make a run per se. Like, their offense rivals or exceeds our offense, you could say. Very good offense. Jackson Dart, he looks like a 12-year-old, but he's been in college football now for 2 or 3 years. So he's pretty solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have them with one SEC loss, losing to Georgia at home.
Yeah. I mean, before the season started, the top four was Ole Miss. Switch us with Ole Miss, and that was the consensus. And now I think we've seen Nico play, and we know what to expect from Ole Miss. And when you compare the two, you're like, yeah, I'll take Tennessee.
I mean, they've been as dominant in terms of box scores when you look at their schedule, but they don't. I mean, who have they played, right? They don't have NC State's not all that now that we're looking back on it, but who they played, you know what I mean? So, I think it's safe to take Tennessee over Ole Miss at this point. Yeah.
And so at number 4, we do disagree here.
Here's where it gets a little weird for me.
So humbly, I'm gonna put Tennessee, our beautiful Vols. I'm gonna put them at 4. Because I don't have the balls to put them above Bama, Georgia, or Texas.
Who
okay?
would, right?
Yeah. I want to see us beat Bama before I put us above them. And I was really going back and forth with this one. Bama has not looked amazing. We have looked better than them this season. But I don't know if I would, come out swinging before we play them. I want to see us play them,
Yeah, and you're 100% right. You got to show it on the field, and that's why these rankings are so hard. All this is in theory. But I have the Georgia Bulldogs at number 4.
Yeah, very surprising.
I surprised myself with this ranking. I didn't realize how tough Georgia's schedule is. We talk about Oklahoma coming in and getting bashed, Florida. Georgia has their next game, which I think their next game, they have a bye week, I think, is against Alabama.
Right.
In Tuscaloosa, mind you. And then October 19th at Texas. If everything goes the way that it's been going, that will be a 1 versus 2 in the country matchup. And after that Kentucky game, I just do not see them beating one or both of Alabama and Texas away from Georgia.
Right away.
It's just and wait, they have Ole Miss at Ole Miss.
Right. Yep.
Ole Miss is strong. Tennessee and Athens.
Yeah, don't forget. We're in there too.
Right.
And it's their only good home game. They play everyone else on the road. We're the team to beat. And then the rest you kind of like, it's away and they're really good. So, but Tennessee, no excuse for them,
Right. I had, Georgia losing to Alabama and Texas, again, both away. Maybe you can switch those out with an Ole Miss or Tennessee. We'll see. But it's a tough road for them. And, especially with that Kentucky game in the wake.
Yeah, but Kirby Smart, now that Saban's gone, I think he's the best coach in the entire
there's no doubt.
Nation.
No doubt.
So I see Smart coming out and showing why he's the best against some of these teams that we are ranking really highly. And while he doesn't have as dominant of a team on both sides, he still has a very strong culture there. A very strong winning culture, and I think that's in their mind. They don't see themselves as any worse than the teams, in the past few years. They see themselves as up there.
Even though they slipped down to number 2 in the AP poll, in my opinion, and they missed the playoffs last year, they're still the, no pun intended, the top dog in the country, I think. And you're right. Taking Georgia at 4 here, it just looked like, looking at my rankings, it looks weird. And with Kirby Smart, it's in the same tier as Saban. You can't doubt Saban, really. You can't really doubt Kirby Smart to this point. But I don't know. Texas is strong. Alabama at Alabama is going to be tough. So, and I'm pretty sure, didn't Alabama beat Georgia last time they played? It's
they
2022 SEC championship or something. I don't remember. But anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So, number 3, the top three teams in the SEC. I have Alabama at number 3.
I had Tennessee at number 3, and we're getting into this weird like triangle or whatever of who's going to make the SEC championship.
Yeah.
Really coming down to these specific matchups. I do have Tennessee losing to Georgia in Athens. I mean, we saw what happened last time we played them there. You know, it's Georgia, and I know I had Georgia below us, but that's more based upon a record than anything else.
Yeah. But you have, Tennessee at 3. So I got Bama. I mean, Bama I just trust. I don't really trust DeBoer, not because of his history, but just because of this season. It's like Bama has a good enough team to absolutely blow out everyone they've played. And the fact that they didn't is concerning. And now they played good against Wisconsin.
Yes.
Wisconsin's not, I mean, they're not Kent State. Wisconsin is a good team that Bama could say, you know, they dominated that game. They really controlled the game the whole way through. And so after that, I'm like, okay. You know, if you would have asked me before that game, yeah, they would have been at 4. But after that game, I got my confidence back in Bama, or I just, you know, I could just kind of, I'm like, all right, fine. You're not going to be like about to lose to Kentucky like Georgia did. Okay, so I believe Alabama is the 3rd best team.
You know, surprisingly, I guess, I had Alabama at 2 above Tennessee, despite the fact that I think Tennessee will beat Alabama. But I think if, you know, let's just say, you know, obviously the number 1 team is now revealed based upon our rankings, but let's say that team didn't exist. If it was Tennessee and Alabama in the SEC championship in Atlanta, I might lean Alabama. So I'm giving us a lot of home field advantage here. But yeah, I mean, everything you're saying, I mean, it's Alabama. They've been the most dominant team for the past like 2 decades, and you know, it hasn't stopped. It's slowed down a little bit, I guess, especially with Saban leaving.
Yeah.
But Milroe, I still, you know, his like decision making and accuracy isn't like perfect, but he has everything else you want. He is the fastest quarterback in the country, and he's a big dude. He can sling that ball to, I think, true freshman wide receiver Ryan Williams.
Yeah, dude.
Who, like, I'm scared to play that guy because he might Jalen Hyatt us when we play him.
I'm scared to play him 2 years from now.
Yeah,
dude,
right.
He's 17 years old.
Yeah.
I'm like 4 years older than that guy, or like 5.
He could dust us, bro. Yeah.
That's crazy. And no, don't get it twisted. Okay, we hate Bama. We hate Bama. But you can't disrespect them before playing them, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and, you know, when it comes time, they're going to get theirs from us.
In Neyland.
I mean,
it's the best. So
but
come on now.
Until then, I think we got them both. Each of us, we have Bama above Tennessee. So, at number 2, I have Georgia, and we just went over Bama. So, yeah, I have Georgia. I trust Georgia. I trust Kirby Smart. No, I don't like their team as much as I would have the past 2 years, but and even ESPN doesn't like their team as much. But it's mostly just Kirby Smart and their mentality that they have, that I know that they have, that I don't like when it comes to competing against them, and that's why I have them at 2.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I had them at 4, but you're right. They've been dominant. They've been scary. You know, whenever you see them on your schedule, you got to gear up for that game. Yeah, as you say, Kirby Smart, best coach in the country, and the matchups with Bama and Texas probably going to be the 2 games of the year, both for the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Those 2 games probably will single-handedly decide what teams match up in the SEC championship.
Yeah, I mean, just as a college football fan, that is those are some of the best matchups that we could have asked for.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Texas, this being their first season in the SEC.
Yep.
And, hey, speaking of Texas, we have not talked about them hardly at all since going through this list.
Mm-hmm.
And there they are at number 1. And that really hurts me to say.
Yeah, I've always been a Texas hater because I thought they were fraudulent, or just hoping they were fraudulent because I just don't like Texas. But yeah, here we are. I don't really have them losing to any. I couldn't find a loss anywhere on the schedule. Obviously, it could happen against Georgia. You know, a bunch of, you know, Oklahoma, Red River rivalry. Wow,
yeah.
That's hard to say.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, they have like 2 guys in their quarterback room that are like could start pretty much anywhere. It's scary. Yeah.
And Texas is like the most boring team to talk about. I don't know. I mean, I don't enjoy talking about Texas. I don't mind talking about Bama and Georgia, and maybe it's because it's Texas's first year. I don't know. I feel sleazy talking about Texas. We are the real UT, and I know everyone watching also knows that. You don't believe it, you don't think it, you know it.
Well, every time we match up against them in any sport, LSU is the real UT. We beat them in March Madness last year.
Yep.
I think we beat them one time before that in basketball again. I want to play them this year in football, whether it's SC championship, playoffs, anything. Because that rivalry, or it's not really a rivalry, but that matchup is always exciting in any sport.
Yeah. So the Tennessee Volunteers are taking on Oklahoma this weekend. 7:30 Rocky Top time over in Norman, at Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium.
Family? Oh,
what a mouthful, and let's not even talk about that first word, but
is that Brent Venables? Gaylord? I don't know.
Shane Beamer. So Oklahoma in their first 3 games, they've played the 133rd ranked FBI ESPN team. So when I say FBI, just think out of the entire nation, where do they rank? Okay,
it's a statistical based power ranking essentially.
Yeah, it's a nerdy way of looking at football teams. So they took on Temple. Temple out of 134 are 133rd, right above Kent State.
Gotta love them, Kent State.
And they whooped them, 51-3 as they should. So then they play Houston, the 69th ranked team, very nice, and did not whoop them. In fact, they almost lost to Houston. It ended up being 16-12, with a safety in there at the end. They were struggling.
Houston was trying to pull them back in the Big 12 the dirty way.
Yeah, exactly.
That game was disgusting. Just like this Tulane game. But.
So last weekend they played Tulane, and they looked better. Their box score was better, 34-19. And Tulane is the 45th ranked team in the nation. According to power rankings, not actual rankings, but
Tulane's fine. I've always liked them. For a, I guess they're kind of in the hunt for that non-power 4 playoff bid. It's going to NIU right now at the moment, but Tulane's fine. As you said, the box score was fine, but this was a pretty sloppy game, all things considered. And overall, this is pretty much the sloppiest way you can start 3-0 on the season.
So the past 3 games, Oklahoma, box score won't tell you this, but PFF will. So Oklahoma has gotten worse every single game, or each week they've played. And so has Jackson Arnold, not with his legs, but with his arms. So he was, he's been good. He's been either good or okay in all of his games.
Winnable,
yeah. Serviceable even. But according to PFF, he's up there with his own team. He has gotten worse passing every single game, but at the same time he's gotten better running.
Which, that trend looks really good for us. Them kind of stepping down the ladder each game obviously is not the way you want to start the season. You want to build on things, which is I think exactly what we've done. Tennessee's done this season. But when you're looking at this matchup, only a -7 to Tennessee, which I guess is understandable because it is at Oklahoma with a 57.5 over/under. I'm taking the points and the spread, if you ask me. I'm really, as you saw in those rankings, I'm really confident in this Tennessee team, and I think that Oklahoma will play better, in this game than maybe some of the games previous. But I like us in this game for sure.
Yeah, I do see Oklahoma kind of coming out. This is their SEC Super Bowl, as I said in last week's episode. Their coach is getting them fired up. He is mad. Yeah. He is telling them to get angry. He's saying, let's prove ourselves this week. And for us, I don't know. We aren't as fired up. We are confident in ourselves, and we trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that we don't come out like I hope that Heupel's mindset isn't on the fact that it's a reunion for him. And yes,
Nah,
of
he
course,
won't.
okay, Heupel played for Oklahoma. If you didn't know,
Yep.
he did not win a Heisman. He got close,
Won him a national championship though.
but he won them a national
Yep.
championship. So, as a Sooners fan, you got to have a soft spot for Heupel. I would hope, but
I saw in an interview he was saying that they're a good play or a tough place to play, a good team. He said that, he expected them to quiet down for him throughout the game, which obviously will not happen.
no, I doubt that.
But you were talking about getting fired up. I'm internally excited for this game. What today's only Tuesday or Monday or whatever.
Yep.
As the days go on throughout this week, it's just gonna get more and more hype. Cause like, I personally think that this is Heupel's most anticipated game of his career, or not career at Tennessee. Excuse me. We had the Alabama game, right? There was a lot of hype going into that one. A few Georgia games when we were number 1 in 2022. But I mean, this, the start of this season just has so much buzz around it.
Yeah.
And it took until pretty much the Alabama game for that buzz to be generated in 2022. But
Right.
we're hitting the ground running. And as I said earlier, this really feels like the season is starting for us, like the SEC season. I mean, if we come out and embarrass Oklahoma, me ranking Georgia at 4 and us at 3 won't be anything too crazy, and you could even say we'd be higher.
Yeah, so in 22, I mean, we started off, like you said, not really being talked about, and then we played
We were good,
Florida.
but we were just a little under the radar. Yeah.
Yeah, under the radar, right. So we play Florida, and we're notorious for losing to Florida, of course, and we beat them. Okay? That was a big deal.
Anthony Richardson,
Yeah.
he was because he had not had a touchdown pass the entire season, and then he had 2 on us right off the bat.
Of course.
Of course. I hate Anthony Richardson at Florida, but
Well, so
we were winning that game. There was a point where we were winning that game somewhat comfortably, and all of a sudden they scored a touchdown. So okay, they get an onside kick. What's going on? Of course, Anthony Richardson throws a pick to end the game. He used that big old arm to throw a 60-yard interception. But so we haven't had a game like that. Is what I'm trying to say. We haven't had kind of a scare. It's been smooth sailing, and I know SEC play hasn't started, but it's just domination so far for us.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, in 22 we beat Florida, and then it's rising. The hype is rising, and then we beat Alabama. And ever since then, Tennessee has been looked at so differently. And I think because we ripped down our field goal post and we threw it in our river. I mean, it's just awesome, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think other fan bases are looking at us a little jealous, and you should be, okay? Because the same thing is going to happen this year. I wholeheartedly believe that.
What, beating Alabama? Or just in general, us being good? No,
yes.
I think we'll beat Alabama.
But I think it starts this weekend.
I agree.
Against Oklahoma. Like you said, This is the middle-of-the-road SEC team. If you lose to this team, you're not good, and you're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And if you beat this team, good. You should have.
If we lose to Oklahoma, sure, we'll have time to work out the kinks, but you just can't see us competing with an Alabama, a Georgia, a Texas if it came to that in SEC championship, whatever. But so yeah, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves for this Oklahoma game. So let's kind of think about what's this game going to look like.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Let's start with Arnold. So, the biggest question with Oklahoma was the O-line. They lost all of their starters, and they replaced it okay. They've been okay. I mean, their competition has not been amazing, but he's still getting pressured.
Yes.
Against this competition.
So if you look at Jackson Arnold this year, he had a lot of hype to him. I mean, coming in the SEC, he was once a Caleb Williams backup, and that was kind of a story. But he's been fine this year. 63%, 484 yards, 7-2 touchdown to interception ratio, which, if you're winning football games, it's fine. If you're not, then you're like, what's going on?
Then it's his fault.
Yeah. Oklahoma has yet to surpass 200 passing yards this season, which is kind of weird.
That's pretty surprising.
Yeah. But where Jackson Arnold really scares me, really, really scares me, is his running ability. he leads the Oklahoma Sooners in carries and rushing yards this season with tacking on 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a typical dual threat. I think his passing ability is better than what he showed. But yeah, I mean, he can move a lot. Like he has a little bit of wiggle to him, and we have the D line to pressure him, but do we have the D line to contain him and not let him run around?
Yeah, we really need our linebackers and even our safeties to be very alert of when Arnold wants to run out and get 15 yards just like that. Because for a quarterback, I mean, all they got to do is find some open space and then run out of bounds, and their drive is alive. So I mean, who is he throwing to?
He's throwing to Deion Burks, kind of only Deion Burks, to be honest. 22 receptions, and the second closest receiver has 10 receptions on the year, 10 and 6. Deion Burks has 3 touchdowns, which means about every 30% of catches he receives, he gets a touchdown. So he's been their only like source of receiving offense. Again, a lot of emphasis on this running game, especially with Arnold. But when you look at Jackson Arnold, I said contain him, put a spy on him. I'm a proponent of having James Pierce be a spy. Josh Heupel likes to line Pierce up in coverage on the edge. You see how Micah Parsons lines up all over the place because he's a game wrecker. Same thing with James Pierce. Lining up as a spy, whatever. But we have an extremely strong defensive line, and when you delve into the stats, the way to beat Jackson Arnold is clear and obvious. You pressure him. You pressure him and force him to throw the ball. Because if you take out Deion Burks, like he obviously doesn't have anyone else to throw to. So whenever Jackson Arnold is pressured, he throws 38% completion percentage, which is horrible.
That's pretty bad.
For 74 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. And it's same when he's blitzed in general, those 2 picks coming off of blitzes and pressures.
Yeah, they're going to be looking to get the ball out quickly. And I think that's why his second most thrown to receiver and third most are both tight ends.
Right.
He's getting pressure. He's got pressure in his face. Dump it down to the tight end.
Yes.
When he's got time, it's going to Burks. Okay. And Burks is not anything crazy. So I think, and neither is our secondary, right? So
true.
I think that balances out. I think honestly we're going to keep Arnold using his legs. I think he's going to try to use his legs just too much. I think it's going to work here and there. He's going to get a few first downs, but it's not going to win him or them the game. It's not going to win them the game. And I think that is because of those pressured stats and because of our D-line, like you said.
We have to be dominant from the jump in this game, as we've been all season. If we make him uncomfortable, force him to throw interceptions, force him to continue that 38% completion rate when he's pressured, that's how we're going to win. And we have to do it from the beginning. Shut down the Oklahoma crowd, get Arnold nervous, maybe make him one-dimensional with running the ball, and we know how good we are against the run.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about Tennessee's offense and Oklahoma's defense. They've got some standout players. They got the linebacker, Stutzman.
Yes. He's very, very good.
And then they got Bowman out there in the secondary. Now, I don't know why, but neither of them scare me. Okay? Yes, Stutzman is predicted to be first-team All-American. He's probably one of the best linebackers in the nation. But linebacker is like the fullback of offense. Yes, it's very important. I'm not saying it's not important and that you could live without it. You can't, and Oklahoma's defense could not live without Stutzman. But I don't think he's going to make a big enough impact to stop Nico and to stop Sampson and to stop Brew. It's just not happening in my mind.
Their defense is the strong point of their team, with Stutzman, Bowman, and
R. Mason Thomas.
His first name is R. Mason, the letter R, Mason Thomas, who has 3 sacks on the year. He kind of like took them home against Tulane. Like he had that last possession or drive. Like he got a sack. He almost got a fumble. Like he was just going everywhere. So their defense is really good, and that's kind of the story. I honestly think the storyline of the game is more how our defense can punish their offense for their obvious trends. But the media storyline of the game is our high-powered offense versus their good defense.
Their defense has allowed so few touchdowns that it's almost equal to as many points off of offensive turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they have a good, and you're expecting that from Venables. This is what he's here for.
Right.
Okay, so this is what he's supposed to be doing, and Heupel is supposed to be outscoring, dominating his good defense. And I think we won't dominate. We're going to play good enough, and I think our defense is better than Oklahoma's.
I mean, that's been the story of the season for me. Like, you can talk about Nico Sampson. For me, it's been how our defense just hit the ground running and just destroying teams.
Yeah.
Absolutely not letting them do anything. I mean, we haven't had an offensive touchdown allowed us all season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably, you'd think that would change against Oklahoma. But I'm really interested to see how Dylan Sampson in the running back room is going to do. Stutzman has 33 tackles this year, which is more than double any other player on the Oklahoma's defense. He's the leader and the heart and soul of that defense. And I don't think it's going to be just write him down for 100 yards instantly, like in the other 3 games. But I still expect him to dominate. And I'm not scared of this defense, I guess. I'm not underestimating it, I don't think. But I see us winning by multiple scores this week, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it could get as bad as bad as being up 21 points over them. I could definitely see that happening. But the spread's 7.
That's laughable. I mean,
that is laughable.
Sure, it's at Oklahoma, but what has told you that we'll only win by 7 points? Nothing they've done has told me that, and nothing we've done has told me that because we've been blowing everyone out. So, I know sportsbooks likes to play a little conservative, whatever.
Yeah.
I would lean toward 10-13 if I was a sports book. I mean, I'm not obviously, but we'll see coming up here on my prediction. I'm going to go a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Hey, let's go ahead. Let's do our predictions.
Okay. Yeah, you go first this time. You've been stealing my predictions, bro.
All right, I will go first.
You've been stealing my predictions, and you're still losing to me.
Yeah. It's because.
Why? What was it? Because? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Just listen, okay? Doesn't matter. Forget the past few weeks, just like Oklahoma wants to.
No, it's a new SEC season. We're not restarting the PCS, but
Let's go 45 Vols. 24 Sooners.
I was going to do that. Dang.
That exact?
No.
Oh. Think you're
yeah,
funny.
I mean, that's 21 points, right? So
yeah, I think it's exactly my spread in my head.
21 points is a fine spread. No, that actually is a good prediction, though. I think that they're going to come out and it's going to be pretty close in the first quarter. But one thing I've been seeing, all these people talking about Tennessee, is that any of our players have yet to play a full game. It's yeah, because they've done enough. We put up 38 points in the first quarter, So it's are they going to be able to play a full game, really have that length of the game? And I think we will. But I think we'll start slow. I'm going to say 52 to 32.
Huh. Okay. So you see it being a pretty high-scoring game.
I think
kind of like pulling away at the end or something.
I think that they'll put up a few points. I don't think we'll be able to handle Arnold's scrambling at the beginning of the game. Close in the first half, but if you're any opposing team, you can't account for our receivers haven't even been unleashed yet. You can't account for Squirrel, Brew, Brazel, Thornton, the whole squad. If you stop one guy in the first half, all the other dogs are going to come at you after that. Not to mention our 3-4 deep running back room. I mean, it's scary. Yeah, our offense is going to be scary this year.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So if you want to predict just like we did, it was as easy as this. But all you got to do is use your two little thumbs, okay? And you just type it in on your computer or maybe your smartphone. I don't know. But hey, all you got to do is go to thepcsonline.com and you can see just how accurate your prediction is.
Beat your friend just like I'm beating my friend right now this season.
So anyway, I'm Shea. This is Jace. This has been the PCS Volcast. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe and like the video, and we will be posting each week.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned.
Previews and reviews.
Yes.
Go Vols!
Go Vols!